Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. Do we have a lot to talk about today? We had the return of the CEO of EPO himself, TJ Dillashaw, but he might have showed us a thing or two against Cory Sanhagen in what was a very tightly contested matchup that went to the judges. Verdict scored it one way, the judges scored it another, but I think that is the reoccurring theme on the night tonight. But with that being said, let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native himself, the Santa Fe bomber, Big Dog. AJ, what's going on, brother? First and foremost, man, does the UFC need to implement some PFL verdict style scoring? Do we need global scoring over here? What do you think?
I mean, I think they need to change something up for sure about their scoring, because this is crazy, man. Fans see it one way, the media sees it another way, then the judges see it a third way. It's absolutely insane, brother. It
is very, very insane, and we got a lot to talk about. We'll definitely break down a lot of that going into this episode. But before we do any of that, I just want to make sure we both on the same page. Folks, drop a like, subscribe. Best MMA show in town. We appreciate the comments. We've been interacting with the comments as of late. We've got a lot of love going on, man. So we appreciate y'all, but just appreciate us back with a dropping a like and subscribing and all of that good stuff. But with that being said, AJ, I think we don't need to mince words any longer. Let's do a little record recap. Rough night at the office, huh? 1-4 a pop for both of us, man. 78-58 for me, 65-71 for you, AJ. I want to ask really quickly, where did we go wrong? Let's just rehash that really quickly. What happened tonight? Were we feeling a little too chalky, maybe? Were we rolling with the big favorites a little too much? Or do you think, and if this is the case, if you do believe this, we don't got to talk about it because we'll talk about it in a second. Do you think a lot of just questionable officiating was really the catalyst?
I think it was a little bit mix of both. I know in one fight in particular, we were a little let down by the outcome of it, and I do think that some people thought it was a robbery. We'll get to that fight in a bit, but I think he might have deserved that one. But for the most part, I think it was a little mix of both. Favoring the favorites, as well as we got a couple robbed right out from under us. So it was a rough day at the office for sure.
Absolutely, but it's okay because we don't make excuses. We take accountability for our choices in life, and as you can see, we still got some pretty damn amazing records over here, folks. So keep rocking with us, and let's do a little bit of recap, AJ. Let's start off with the photos. You know what we do over here. We do it best for the folks who are just listening at home. I'm going to describe them the best that I can to you. And for those who are watching, clearly you see what it is. So we're going to open this one up, AJ. We got Paige VanZant versus Rachael Ostovich. This is a rematch, except this one is happening in bare knuckle fighting championships. And I just want you to comment on this photo. You see right here, this is one of those iconic photos of this reminds me very much of the Yoni and Jacek versus Weili Zhang fight, where they're both just kind of clipping each other, just going at it, man. This is just a timeless, epic photo, in my opinion. You got the 12 gauge, trunks for Paige VanZant, and then you got the MyBookie all black, looking like a real thug out there in Ostavic, man. Give me your take on this photo, and then I'll talk about, the next one coming up after.
Man, this is a classic photo. Like you said, the tagging each other back and forth, and for the viewer, for the listeners out there, you can really see Paige VanZant's face of she knew she's about to eat that. This reminds me of one time I was sparring my boy Joey, and I was throwing some heat down the pipe, and he cracked me with a good one back, and he told me, he was like, I knew I was going to have to eat that shot, but I was going to give you one right back. And that's exactly what this is. Paige VanZant's throwing one, knowing I'm going to hit you, but I'm going to have to eat a hell of a shot coming back at it. And Rachael Ostovich did amazing in this fight as well, man.
Absolutely. So this next photo right here, this is going to be the two middle fingers up, throwing the birds up for Paige VanZant. And what I really wanted to highlight was just those swollen, round, fat-looking hands, man. That bare knuckle fighting is no joke. When you really laying it out there like that, man, the hand is going to hurt and look a little deformed, man. Give me your take. Is this something that you would volunteer, sign up for, so your hands could look like that after every fight?
I don't know, Derick. One of the most savage fights I've seen have been the Lethwei, the bare knuckle Muay Thai, or the bare knuckle boxing. Those things are bloody, they're disgusting, and it's a hell of a fight though. It's very entertaining. And I loved Paige VanZant's comment on this one. She says, "Still smiling, bitches." But those hands, those hands ain't smiling. Those things are rough right there, brother.
Absolutely.
Would you volunteer for a bare knuckle fight?
Listen, man, voluntarily, probably not, man. At least give me some gloves, give me something, because my thought process, I got that brain where I jump straight to the longevity, and I say, when you're 70 years old, you're going to have bad arthritis in your hands, man. Probably much worse than having no big pads on your hands. But then again, you can't hit as hard when you have bare knuckles as opposed to when you have a boxing glove on. one. So I don't know, man. Science is going to have to handle that. I say no. But let me give a little context, though. So this fight, Paige VanZant, she lost a very, very close battle. Unanimous decision, 48-47 times 2, and 49-46 in favor of Rachael Ostovich, excuse me. This is Paige VanZant's second loss in a row in bare knuckle fighting championships, and a big show over there, right? And it's just crazy because of how much that she got paid to leave MMA, to go over there, lost 2 in a row. Now you have to start wondering, okay, does she have a future in this sport? I'm not saying that she doesn't, but the people who hired her, who paid her all this money, probably are like, God damn, I wish I didn't spend all this money. Maybe would have spent it on Ostavic instead. But at the end of the day, the reason why a lot of people tuned into this fight is most likely because of Paige VanZant. So it is what it is. Entertainment is entertainment. That was a big loss, but hopefully she will be back. Let's move on to the next one, AJ. Now that we got some real UFC action, we're going straight into the UFC here. And this is a little content warning alert, folks. You're just about to see something real ugly that you don't want to see, but it's part of the fight game. We got Elise Reed and that eye looking like a balloon, looking like she just got pieced up, courtesy of Sijara Eubanks, a real thug off the streets. You know what I'm saying? Nah, she's nasty. She's a savage. And what I loved most about after this TKO ground and pound finish against Elise Reed, Sijara Eubanks said, yeah, I'm calling out all these people. Valentina, you know I'm coming for her. I was like, who nonchalantly just calls out Valentina like that? Like, oh, you got to be a Sijara Eubanks if you really want to be able to make it happen like that. But give me your take on that eye, man. That eye is looking crazy.
You know what was crazy about this eye to me, Derick, is it swolled up probably in about 25 seconds. She got pieced up, hit with a couple elbows, and a few of the elbows on the ground were missing. She was missing, caught her with one, and that thing ballooned up like crazy. It even got purple. She didn't get cut, but that hematoma was going, man. Yeah. And this eye was crazy. I thought it was, when I was watching the fight, I thought the stoppage was a little soon. And then I looked at the eye and I was like, oh yeah, never mind. That was a good call. That was a good call.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is one of those things where you don't really like to see it, but this probably indicates what? Broken orbital, broken something. This is like a boxing injury you normally see. You don't see this in MMA too much. But huge win for Sijara Eubanks. Now this next one, man, I just wanted to comment on this because first off, we'll talk about this a little in a second about what happened in the prelims, but Mickey Gall, he chokes out Jordan Williams, who's making his welterweight debut in the UFC. And what I wanted to comment on specifically is that in this picture, this is like one of the tightest rear naked chokes I have seen captured on camera. Like there is not an inch for him to breathe. There's not a centimeter for Williams to grasp any air in his lungs. That is like out on the streets, you will kill somebody doing something like that, man. If you just decide, I'm not letting go, that's it. RIP. Give me your take on this, AJ.
Man, this was a very impressive win for Mickey Gall, especially because right before this picture took place, he was switching arms. He was going left, right, and then one of those, that right arm, you can see it snuck right in under the neck, got that finish, bro. It was impressive. This was a hell of a win, and like you said, not a centimeter of space where he can get a breath in, and it's even hard. You can see that Mickey Gall has his hand behind Jordan Williams' head, and Jordan Williams is trying to get the 2-on-1 to pull down. You can't do it, man. Can't do it when you're losing oxygen to the brain like that.
Which really quickly, that just reminded me, man. I don't remember where I was watching, but I was watching like some type of instructional for a rear naked choke from, I think it might have been some Gracie stuff or whatever, but that's besides the point. The point is that they actually say how most people, they'll put the hand behind the head and try to push on the head. That's what you shouldn't do because you can do the 2-on-1. Your opponent can try to grab your hands and do that. And instead, what you should do is you should kind of like tuck your hand away behind the head so where it's inaccessible from their hands. And it kind of seems like in the photo that's a little bit of what Mickey Gall is doing. So it's like, listen, man, you can't stop people. You can't have 5 rear naked chokes on your UFC tenure without being really good at that position. So huge win for Mickey Gall. That's just a crazy looking photo. This is definitely going in my top photos of 2021. This next photo, man, is going to be a timeless one. We've seen it a million times, and I might be just as surprised as everybody else to have seen it again. This is The Damage. Darren Elkins letting out the war cry, man, screaming at the top of his lungs, bloody face, the crimson mask. And I don't want you to comment, or actually I do. I thought I had another photo following this one, but I don't. Give me your take, man, just on the timeless Darren Elkins war cry.
Dude, The Damage did what The Damage does, brother, and this is exactly that. The timeless war cry. like you can see there's no better feeling than thinking you were losing that fight, but then turning around and winning it. Because in the fight, man, Minner was winning until he wasn't, and that's the damage of style, brother. He did what he does, like I said, and it was very impressive. It was also really good to see like the old school vet come back and just have still that young vigor, that young scream, man. It made me very excited to watch.
And let's not forget, the man is 37 years old, so it's just so impressive for the damage, man. They call him the damage for a reason. And then we only got 2 more photos. This one's going to be quick around this time, AJ, this photo collection. But this one, to me, is another one of those timeless photos that you're just going to put out there for the instant classic fights of the world. This is TJ Dillashaw and Cory Sanhagen just swinging and banging, man, swinging it out. You got the bloody TJ Dillashaw with a crazy cut that I'm going to show in this next photo. But obviously, we have a lot to talk about this one. Don't spoil it too much. Just give me your take on the photo, AJ.
This one actually is a good picture of a little more of what happened. And what during the fight when I first watched it, I felt a little bit of a way, a certain way. And this one kind of highlights that it was a lot closer than what it was. But we'll get to all that in a second.
Of course. And then this one is just, we're going to talk about the notorious cut that got opened up on TJ Dillashaw, which forced him to pull out a couple weeks ago against Cory Sanhagen, and it got opened up in this one. And let's talk about it, man. Content warning for those at home, but this is a nasty cut on the it's like right here next to the nose, right above the eye on TJ Dillashaw, right on that eyebrow. That is deep, man. You could see homeboys, all his guts and all his nastiness inside of his head, man. How mentally tough do you have to be to know that that cut is going to open up and be absolutely okay and just keep walking forward like a zombie? How tough or how stupid do you have to be to do that?
I think those go hand in hand, brother. That's one of those fine lines, like genius versus whatever the other saying is. But this is in the worst place, a deep cut. Yeah, this you got to have some cojones to keep pushing through. And I'm glad the doctor didn't stop it as well. They right when it opened up, they kind of called the doctor, and I'm glad he let it go. He even said, "No, we can keep going with this one." Like, what? This is a deep cut, but all right, brother. Fuck it. We're running. Let's go.
Yeah, my favorite is that he asked him, he was like, "Can you continue?" And TJ was like, "Of course." Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But that, not even a moment of hesitancy. I was like, all right, that man was the champion for a reason. But that concludes our photo collection this week, folks. Once again, drop a like, subscribe, all of that good stuff before we get into this real main card recap. AJ, before we do that as well, you know what I like to do? I like to just talk about a couple of prelim matchups that, didn't probably grab everybody's attention, but I thought we probably should talk about it a little bit. So, folks, I'm going to start off with, I'm going to start off with Andre Ewell. AJ, I want to ask you about this. Julio Arce, or Arce, I don't know how to pronounce the name off the top of my head, but he got a big TKO round 2 finish over Andre Ewell. And this is a dude in Ewell who has a lot of promise, man. He has a lot of skills, a really long jab. He's just long overall. And he drops another one, man. This is really, really interesting. But I will say for Arce, it is his first win since 2019 when he knocked out Julian Erosa. So to have Erosa and Ewell on your record, both finish wins, that's pretty damn impressive, AJ. Just give me your take on that real quick.
I'm pretty sure, I think it's Arce. I was calling him Arce in my sleeper, but I think it's Arce from at least the show. But okay. He also has a win over Dan Ige, if I'm not mistaken, bro. He has some pretty big wins on his belt, but he's kind of flying a little under the radar. This was a crazy fight to me. This, like I said, this was one of my sleepers. I was very excited to watch it. And, man, I just blanked the name of the other fighter, not Arce, but Andre Ewell, excuse me. Ewell was looking good, man. He was looking good in the first round, looked really, really good, and then got tagged a couple hard times in the second. You saw that stanky leg come out, and he started, Arce, whatever, started working those kicks, those head kicks, man. He looked really, really good in the fight, and it was back and forth. This one was a lot closer than round 2 TKO finish. It was very, very much back and forth, and I had Ewell win in the first. I've been a big fan of Andre Ewell for a long time, but it seems it's a little rough in this game when you just drop 2, drop 3, and you start to kind of lose that momentum you have. You get a little mental aspect starting to fight yourself, really. So it's going to be interesting to see how Ewell comes back from this one and where he gets to fight next. What was your takeaway, Derick? How'd you like this one?
Well, I kind of feel the same way, man. I just feel bad for him because he's been over here. Ewell has actually called out like big name fighters. I'm talking like ranked fighters. Like he's really been trying to make that step up in competition. And it's like when all your tools are there, but you're not showing up come fight night, or you are showing up, but you got to show up for all 3 rounds. You got to show up every minute of that fight, you know? So I think that he still does have a future in the UFC. I don't think the UFC should let him go by any means, but dude just got to find a way to utilize that length and you know what I mean? Maybe go up a weight class so you don't got those chin chin issues, I don't know, man. But I thought it was an interesting matchup for sure. Let me hit on this one really quickly because we already talked about it. Just a second, man. Mickey Gall, I want to talk about how underappreciated this man is in the UFC. He's been more or less of a meme in the UFC. People have made fun of him, but you got to understand this man entered the UFC at 1-0. He has now moved to 7-3, and all 5 of his submission victories have come, I believe, in the first round. Maybe not. Nonetheless, 5 rear naked chokes. Just speak to me, AJ, on how impressive 5 rear naked choke victories in the UFC, in the highest of high-level organizations for mixed martial arts. How impressive is that? Because everybody knows that's what you're good at, and to still be able to keep doing it shows you're incredible at it. Give me your take on that.
Yeah, not only does everybody know that that's what he's good at, but that's like the first submission everybody learns. Get the back, put your hand around the throat, start choking. Even casual fans that watch, I have a couple clients that just, they'll just watch UFC and the first thing they know is rear naked choke. Yeah. So it's like the most basic of chokes, and a lot of the time, people really know how to defend it. But with Mickey Gall, man, that choke, that rear naked choke, that was not one of those get tired, the opponent gets tired, I'm going to put my arm around your chin and you just tap because you're tired. That was a legit stranglehold. He wasn't going anywhere. If Mickey Gall wanted to end that dude's life, he very easily could have, bro. That was insane. And the fact that Mickey Gall was able to get it and continue, like you said, 5 rear naked chokes on this high level of opponents, man, it speaks volumes. And I agree. I even noted in the pre-show that Mickey Gall has been underestimated, unrespected, and he's really needs to earn a lot of clout in the division. I think a lot of it came from that Diego Sanchez loss, but Mickey Gall has really turned it around. He was looking good, and even when he got the win, he was in there saying, man, this was fucking fun. Like, I was happy to see him get that exuberance and that passion back that we love. As a fighter, you love to see it, man, because it's a fun in there, but it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows when you're getting choked out from behind. So what do you think, Derick? What's your takeaways?
Well, I just first need to comment on something that he was saying pre-fight. Mickey Gall, was saying pre-fight. He had this old school traditional mindset of like, yo, man, we get to go in there and we get to be men, we get to go and give it our all and fight and do like gladiator style, like modern day gladiator. Like, this is what being a man is about. And I was all like, God damn, I didn't know you thought about it like that, but I respect it. You know what I'm saying? Come out there, come perform, come deliver, and go and do the most macho of macho activities that you can do, which is punch another man in the face. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. And in his case, punch him in the face, take his back, choke him out. That's literally textbook. That's what every fighter wants to do. You don't want to take very little damage, and you want to just go in there, take the back, finish, done. So with that being said, man, it was a very, very impressive victory. It was a very short fight as well. I just want to make a quick comment on Jordan Williams, man. I do think the man has a future in the UFC as well. This is a dude who, he made his name, like this dude knocked out Gregory Rodriguez RoboCop, bro. Like, that is so impressive. And he did that at 185 pounds. And he's putting on for the type 1 diabetics. And he's going to show that it's like, listen, man, just because you have this autoimmune disease doesn't mean you can't come in there and still whoop some ass, man. So it's like, I'm a big fan of this dude and his message. I just have to say, man, you got to figure something out. You got to go work on the submission defense. He's over there working with Factory X Muay Thai, and I'm blanking on the coach's name, the head coach, Mark Montoya, I believe is his name at Factory X Muay Thai. But nonetheless, man, listen, I just think that the man needs to, go back to the drawing board. He's still very young in his career, and, here we go. He's already fought in Bellator. He's fought in the regional scene. Now here at the UFC, now it's time to make it count. So I think the last thing that I really want to touch on really, really quickly, and we'll just give a brief take on this because we need to move on to the main card, but Punahele Soriano, he gets his first loss in the UFC to Brendan All-In Allen. Now, this is an individual who I said, Brendan Allen, sometimes he falls in love with his hands, you know what I mean? Sometimes that's going to make you pay. That's going to go back and bite you at the end of the day. But in this one, man, listen, you got the control. You got the win over Puna Soriano, and I think this was a big lesson for Puna himself. Just give me your quick take on this one, AJ.
This was a hard loss for Puna to me, man, because he was fighting the whole time and never really winning any of the exchanges, man. Brendan Allen just stayed calm, cool, collected, and he was piecing Puna up, man. It was as a Puna fan, it was hard to watch, but as a Brendan Allen fan, man, he looked good. He stayed, like I said, stayed calm, knew exactly what was going on, and never was really in any super big danger. And I think even at the end of the fight, and why I said it was a hard loss for Puna, even at the end of the fight, he kind of knew. You saw from the body language, he's like, damn, man, I didn't put on. I didn't show up, didn't show out. And it's rough to know that when the fight is actually happening, because if you're getting punched in the face and there's nothing you can do and all you keep thinking is like, damn, what do I got to do to hit this guy? And you still can't do it. You can't get a takedown. That's a pretty demoralizing loss for Puna. What do you think, Derick? How was that going for you?
I would agree with you, man. I would agree. And I would say for the most part that this is going to be one of those big learning lessons where you'll say the loss is either going to propel you to new heights or it's going to go a downward spiral, and you're going to start really questioning yourself and, kind of doing that thing that we're talking about for Andre Ewell, where it started like you start questioning your capabilities. You know what you can do, but you're not performing. However, we know one thing about Puna, the man can perform and the man can knock your lights out with one shot. So all he has to do is shore up the rest of it. It's like those power fighters. A lot of the time they rely on that power because it works every time, until it doesn't. And that's the big show, right? When you get up past the, when you get to the top 25, the top 30s, the top 15s, you can't just rely on power anymore. We saw it with Francis Ngannou. When you get to the top of the top, you got to be able to have a couple other things, because these dudes they know your power is your key asset, and they know how to get around it for the most part. So with that being said, AJ, it was a great night of fights overall. We're talking about the main card in just 1 second, but 3 knockouts, 1 submission, 2 decisions on the prelims, 3 upsets overall, and that's going to lend to a couple more that we're going to see on the main card here. So let's talk about it, AJ. We're going to get straight into the people's main event right here. Adrian Yanez, he closed as a minus 250 favorite, and he got the job done against Randy Costa, man. We were sitting here, we were going back and forth on it. I was giving you a million reasons for why Costa could win until I picked Yanez at the end of the day, and it goes to show that in that first round, Costa looked like a world beater. Adrian Yanez looked like average Joe, you know what I'm saying, in that first round, until he woke up a little bit and says, okay, man. He even said it in the post-fight presser. It was so hilarious. He was all like, listen, man, I do the knocking out. I don't get knocked out. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I love that. But this was a very, very hard-fought battle. This was a war. And Randy Costa, man, loss aside, the man has a very bright future. Give me your take overall on this fight, AJ.
Man, Costa was looking great. He was looking, like you said, like a world beater, throwing long combination. Those head kicks were landing. He I think what happened is he caught Yanez off a little bit. And like you said, he was like, I'm the one that does the knocking out. So at first, when he was getting touched up a little bit, he was kind of like just shook for a second, able to regain himself and go back in the win, get the win in the second round. And this fight right here set the pace of the night for me. Like, it set the tone, I guess is a better word for it, because Costa was looking amazing. Then he got tired. Yanez is able to put on, man. It was a very impressive win for Yanez. And the first round was a very technical chess match, in which Costa was getting the dub. He was getting the win on that technical chess match. But then the second round, it became a dog fight. And that's where Yanez really showed up and showed that he's the one that, like he said, does the knocking out. My question to you, Derick, is which would you rather win, the technical fight or the dog fight? To me, it's a little hard, because I'd rather win the dog fight, because it feels like that's where most of them go. But, man, if you don't win those technical battles, you're going to get pieced up in the beginning, and it's a hard road up after that. What do you think?
Well, you know what, man? I will say that, like, the machismo in me, where I grew up at, I would love to win the dog fight, like the Darren Elkins style dog fight, where it's like, listen, I'm so tough, man. You got to kill me to get me out of there. However, what's something that I commonly say to you, AJ, one of the most disrespectful things you can call someone is tough, because that just means that you get hit a lot, man, and that's not what I want, man. I came up on the sweet science of boxing, where you hit and you don't get hit back. But nonetheless, man, I honestly think that winning a very technical matchup would probably be a little bit better, because, in my opinion personally, because it goes to show that, hey, man, like, when it comes down to the actual skill set, when it comes down to the X's and O's, man, I'm more proficient than you at this, man. I spend more time in my craft. I could piece you up. I got better angles. I got better head movement. My jab is snapping harder than yours. I prefer that better, just because I feel like it's more of a demoralizing type of victory to have than just a, dang, this dude is tough, man. Why can't I get him out of there? I hit him with everything in the kitchen sink. But we'll talk about that in a second, man. I do want to ask you this, AJ. Was it not a little counterintuitive? Didn't you think it would be kind of backwards the way that this fight went out? Because I personally said, I was like, okay, if it's going to be technical, Yanez gets it done. If it's going to be a dog fight, that's Costa all day. But it was flip-flop, and that's like crazy to see to me personally, because first off, Randy Costa, Adrian Yanez said it in the post-fight. He was all like, I did not expect this man to come out like technical boxing, throwing 1-2s and all that stuff. But that goes to show that Adrian Yanez is so skilled, he brought the best out of Randy Costa. So it's really interesting. What did you think about that? Was I kind of right in that assessment?
Oh yeah, 100%. I 100% thought Yanez was going to be the more technical guy and not really have to dig on his dog, you know. But what impressed me most was Costa's jab. It was so fast and so snappy that jab, he was long jab, just literally keeping banking off of Yanez's head, and he literally didn't have, at least in the first round, Yanez didn't have the head movement to avoid the jab. He was literally just getting caught. So that's what was impressed me most, is we haven't seen that snappy of a jab from Costa yet until that first round of that. And the head kicks are amazing. So the head kicks of Costa are always amazing. So I was very put back, or at least like kind of shocked the fact that Yanez was the one that had to fall back on his dog, whereas Costa stayed technical. It was impressive. It was a very impressive first round for Costa.
Absolutely. And one thing that I want to do, we don't normally do this on this platform, but I want to ask you, just because I think these two cats, you have to talk about them in this way, man. I want you to give me a very quick prediction off the top of your head, man. Where do you see these two fighters at their peak? They're very young in their careers, man. At their peak in the UFC, what do you think these two fighters are capable of? Start with Costa and then go Yanez.
Oh man. See, so I'm a little more high on Yanez, to be honest with you. I think Costa looks good, but I think he's going to have to honestly go up a weight. He's big for the weight class. What are they, 135, 125?
135.
The bantamweight, they're 135. So I think Costa, he's very tall, very good for the division, but I don't necessarily see him as the world champ. Now with Yanez, I do see it. He's very, very confident in his skills. I think this dude can very easily go to the top of the division. Whereas Costa, we're going to see him around for a long time. You know, we're going to see him around. Hopefully he won't be that gatekeeper position, but I can easily see him maintaining a spot in the top 5 the whole time. Whereas Yanez, man, this dude has some very serious potential to be world champ coming up. And I mean, it's going to be a long road for him because he is very young. Both these fighters are very, very young. So we can see, you know, this can completely be wrong. But Yanez, man, has the mindset and the skill set to go very, very far in the division. And I think he's going to, you know, I'm calling it now. He's going to be champ here within the next, 3 to 5 years. What do you think, Derick? Where do you see these fighters going?
So I would agree with you for the most part, but I got a little bit of a different take on Adrian Yanez. So I'll start with Randy Costa, man. I think that I agree. I do think that he would benefit by moving up a weight class because he has a lot of speed. He has a lot of pop in his shot, and I really do think that will translate over to 145 pounds. However, he needs to round out the game a little bit, man. You can't just be knocking everybody out. I want to see some wrestling. I want to see some sprawls. I want to see some jiu-jitsu, because if you want to be at the level which I think that he can be at, he's going to need it. So I think Randy Costa could absolutely be a perennial top 10er. You know what I mean? Perennial. And if you're in the top 10 of the world in your division, you are arguably an expert at your sport. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are one of the best in the entire world. You don't always have to be the absolute best. And sometimes you can not be the best in the world and still get that title championship, similar to a Michael Bisping. You know what I'm saying? Now for Adrian Yanez, I don't know if I see championship aspirations yet, or him being truly a champion. And the reason why is because if he got pieced up the way he did against Randy Costa, imagine who he can get pieced up by, who are real top fivers. So, but I do think Adrian Yanez can truly be a perennial top fiver. I just want to see him matched up against a wrestler, against a real grappler. Someone who's like Gustavo Lopez. I thought he was going to wrestle him. He decided he just wanted to box. It's like, okay, understood. But I want to see somebody who's really going that. Let me see your sprawls. Let me see stuff like that in the UFC, and then I can make my decision on whether Yanez will be a champion or not. Nonetheless, man, our say has nothing to do about it. You know, these men are going to prove it at the end of the day on whether they are going to do what we think they're going to do. I will say Yanez has the mindset. He has championship mindset. The way he's critiquing himself and the way he's taking accountability, the way that he's saying, I got to get better, man. If I want to be where I want to be, I have to get better. All the makings for a champion. You just got to be able to, you can't have those slow starts. He said it himself. He said all of that stuff himself in his post-fight, you know what I'm saying? But that's my take on those ones, man. We spent a lot of time on this one, so let's move on. But this was a huge, huge win for Adrian Yanez, and I do have to say he's won his last 4 fights via TKO, and he is now riding a 7-fight win streak. Super impressive, man. Okay, AJ, I've been thinking a couple names for this segment that we're going to have to pop up every now and then, every couple of fights, right? We got the robbery report. We could talk about someone just pulled a jack move. Someone just hit a lick, man. Listen, man, somebody went with the brink truck and robbed the damn bank. You know what I'm saying? Maycee Barber, she gets a split decision victory over Miranda Maverick. This is one, AJ, where I just have to say, because I didn't get to catch this live, I had to watch it back. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, huge win for Barber, until I watched it. And I was like, I clearly gave Miranda Maverick 2-1 in terms of the scorecard. Very clear, like not a question in my mind that says that Miranda Maverick did not win 2-1, or that she did win 2-1, excuse me. Maycee Barber, she's very content with her victory. She says she believes she did what she needed to do and the judges did what they needed to do. I think that's something you got to tell yourself to justify that in your mind, man, because this was the biggest robbery of the night, in my opinion, personally. Give me your take on what you saw, or before you give me your take on what you saw, just give me your take on just like the scorecards. I have them in front of me. It's Barber via split decision, 29-28 times 2, and then 29-28 for Miranda Maverick. So somehow, some way, the judges saw it 2-1 for Barber. Give me your take on that.
Well, Derek, this was one of those fights where I picked Barber to win, and I definitely don't think she won. Like 100%, she lost that fight. And to me, I wrote this down because the two questions you don't want to hear when you have DC or Joe Rogan or anyone interviewing you after your win are, do you think you did enough to win this fight? And do you feel like you did enough to win the decision? Like, anytime you're hearing those questions, that means that the rest of that, the question they left out is because I don't think you did. You know, because the rest of the world doesn't think you did enough to win this fight. So you got lucky and you had like you said, it was a bank robbery. Someone paid those judges very nicely, and hopefully they're able to spend a little cash on that side, man. But because Barber, she clearly lost the first round. Second one is a little closer. Third one, she might have gotten. I don't know though, because Maverick stayed fierce, bro. Maverick was absolutely piecing her up. And in the pre-show, I said that I liked the idea of Maycee Barber going to Team Alpha Male, so she has that kind of like grit and determination. But as long as she stayed technical and true to who she was and stayed slick, not necessarily the case. She kind of picked up all the worst aspects that Team Alpha Male has, which is biting down your mouthpiece and throwing hooks for the head. And she actually, I was noticing when I rewatched this fight, she picked up the same combo that TJ Dillashaw picked up from Team Alpha Male. They'll step forward, she'll stay in her switch stance. She's normally a southpaw fighter, but she'll go orthodox, throw a right hand, step forward, duck under, roll under, and throw that big, heavy left hook. TJ does it very, very well. He's very slick with it. But I think it's something they teach at Team Alpha Male, because I haven't seen Maycee Barber do that ever before. And she wasn't ever able to connect with that shot, even though it looked really good. She kind of just didn't seem up to snuff, if that makes sense. Because Maycee Barber, she's usually very slick, very in and out, and very strong on the wrestling. But Miranda Maverick proved that she's not really that good. Maverick came up, she was the bully of the fight, controlled the entire pace, and stopped almost all the takedowns that Maycee Barber had, where I thought Maycee Barber was going to be the one controlling the ground game. But Miranda Maverick proved she's a lot stronger. She was the bigger, stronger, and more technically sound fighter. I definitely had this one as a robbery report. This one, I don't know. But the question I have for you, Derick, is how much do you like the strategy that Maycee Barber put into play of, I'm gonna take off a couple in the first. I'm going to save some in the gas tank. I'm going to really let it loose in the last rounds. What did you think? That's a viable strategy, or you're not a fan of that one?
So I don't even know if that was her strategy, man. I just think she's a slow starter too, because this is the same thing as we saw in the last fight, where it's like, okay, you're not being able to get it round 1. Round 2, okay, a little more active. Round 3, you really pick it up. And that's exactly what she did against Alexa Grasso. I will say this. I will say that at the end of the day, I'm going to comment on that little combination you're talking about where you switch stances mid, and then I think that's a closing distance strategy, because Barber was having a really hard time actually landing on Maverick. Maverick was in and out, hitting her with that body kick a million times, hitting her with the blitzing combos, getting right back out. So I think Maycee Barber had a hard time finding the hands, which is why she started to close the distance to try to wrestle up, clinch up against the cage, drop a couple knees, throw a little bit of stuff like that, which is what I talked about before. They're both really good at that same position, so it would be interesting to see how it panned out. I think Barber did show that she was pretty strong, man. I think that she won the strength advantage. I think Miranda Maverick had more of a technical, more fundamental on that side. But at the end of the day, man, no, I do think she needs to start faster if she wants to actually continue to pick up wins in this top 15. Miranda Maverick, man, she did everything she needed to do to win. I would say the biggest thing is that when and you commented on it for me, man, and this was the first fight of the main card, which really showed this. But you said, like, hey, you cannot leave it to the judges like that, man. You got to go and do something decisive. You have to put a stamp on the fight. And in round 3, she kind of got tired, man. And that's the interesting thing to me, is that maybe you're right, and maybe Barber said, I'm gonna wait till I get her tired, and then I'm just gonna tee off on her. You know what I mean? Throw those big overhand hooks, which I still don't know why the hell she throws it, man. Yeah, you got a lot of power behind it, but that's just it looks amateurish, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't look like, you know, something that a real deal top 15 fighter implements in their strategy very often. At the end of the day, AJ, this was a fight, you know. I was expecting more from both, though, to be honest with you. I was expecting a little bit more from Miranda Maverick as well. She seemed, for as much as she was talking and as much as all of that stuff, she seemed just a little hesitant to kind of throw as much as she did against like a Liana Jojua, you know what I mean? Because she was piecing her up, throwing everything in the kitchen sink. But lastly, I just wanted to comment on this. Miranda Maverick, did she look a little smaller to you? She looked just like a little smaller, and maybe she was saying she has her weight under control, the best that she's ever had. She's got the meal prep and all that good stuff. But maybe she did benefit a little bit from being a little more beefy, having a little more pop on the shot. At the end of the day, she got tired in the third round, so maybe it wouldn't have been a good idea. But I just want to ask you, yeah, you do think that she looked a little smaller?
Yeah, I do think she looked a little smaller, and it might just been in comparison because Maycee Barber is the taller and also a very thick fighter, which is really, really good for her. You know, no disrespect there. Yeah. But usually Miranda Maverick, when you see her in the ring, you think like, oh, this girl, she got some quads. You know, she's got some serious strength behind her, and she looked a little more fit, which I honestly think she did put out a good amount of output. She was staying busy, staying strong in the fight, and like you said, in and out movement. But she wasn't landing as much of an impact as I was expecting her to land. You know, she was tagging Barber up, but Barber was able to eat those shots and keep it rolling. Literally keep it moving, keep it going. And not actually able to get the clinch. I was kind of surprised with how much output Maverick was having. She wasn't able to get the clinch advantage. Barber was still able to put her up against the fence. She wasn't able to take her down, but she was still able to control the actual movement of Maverick. So maybe that's where the judges, you know, we'll get into that whole debate of control a little bit later on, but maybe that's where the judges saw that she was able to do a little more in the fight. I don't know. Not my style, but it was a win is a win is a win. So
absolutely, you got to honor it. But I will say, let's talk about the global scoring right now, man. Verdict scored it 29.94 to 28.05 in favor of Miranda Maverick. And that is almost a complete point. That's almost technically 29-28. So with that being said, the world didn't see it the way that the judges did. And I will comment before we move on really quickly to the next bout. TJ Dillashaw did the same thing that Maycee Barber did in a lot of similar ways, where take the bag, just have her controlled up against the fence, but you have to do something with it. I thought we've gone over this a million times. You can't just grab somebody and hug them, because even Cory Sandhagen, he was like, ref, what's up, man? Like, this dude's just hugging me. And Miranda Maverick did the same exact thing, like, ref, I'm okay. She's just, but it also kind of looked like, I could see in the judges, it could look like frustration from the fighter. So they're like, dang, like, all right, you can complain all day, but you need to work to get out of the position instead of complaining. But with that being said, man, we'll talk about this like in the main event. But interesting decision. A win is a win is a win. And Maycee Barber comes up victorious in her first win since 2019, since she TKO'd Jillian Robertson in the first round. So she moves up one spot, back up to 13. She was at 14, but interesting nonetheless, man. Let's move on to this timeless victory for the damage, Darren Elkins over Darrick Minner. We talked about it very briefly in the photo collection, AJ, but Darren Elkins did what I said he would do. And I picked Minner to win the fight, but I said Darren Elkins, his best attribute is his toughness, and that's literally what it was. He basically says, punch me a million times until you get tired, and then I'm going to destroy you. And that's what he does every single time. He was really hurt in the first round, though, man. Minner really hurt him in that first round. I thought that Minner actually had a submission locked in on him. I thought it was going to be game over. But at the end of the day, man, Darren Elkins did what Darren Elkins does, and I don't know, man. This dude is a timeless legend, and it's the hardest to try to deal with these type of fighters because he's 37 years old. He keeps winning. This is his second win in a row since losing 4 straight. And just when you thought he was done, just like Andrei Arlovsky, just when you thought he was done, he comes back and he says, no way, man. You got to kill me to get me out of here. But he's probably in that gatekeeper role, man, because you know the man's not going to be fighting for any championship at 145 pounds. But if the man loves to fight, the man loves to fight, and he shows that he has cardio for days. I want to ask you this, AJ. Is Darren Elkins the 145-pound equivalent? Because I'm blanking on what weight class this man was in, but is he the modern-day 145-pound equivalent of Clay Guida?
Yeah, I would agree. That's pretty spot on, man. Clay Guida is a hell of a wrestler, hell of a gatekeeper, has a hell of a chin, and loves to get in those bloody, dirty fights. And that's what we saw with Darren Elkins, man. He looked really, really good. Sorry, excuse me. Minner looked really, really good until he didn't, where Darren Elkins was kind of getting pieced up. He's getting bloodied up, getting controlled on the ground. And I think where Darrick Minner lost this fight is he wasn't listening to his coaches. He felt that first guillotine, that first front choke get kind of locked in, where Elkins was able to roll and sprawl and get away from it. But Minner felt that first one get locked up and thought, I'm going to choke this dude out. Nobody submits Elkins. Nobody does it. I'm going to do it. Started hunting that like crazy and ended up paying the full price once his arms gassed out. But man, yeah, Darren Elkins is definitely on that road to be that gatekeeper, just like Clay Guida. And that was actually a pretty spot on call right there, Derick.
Yeah, man. I will say this, that it's kind of tough because when you have a cheat code in your corner in James Krause over there at Glory MMA, you should probably listen to him, right? You know, it'd probably be in your best interest because that's the thing. Here's the thing, right? You always hear in terms of coaching, people would say, I'd rather have someone who has never been introduced to the sport before, who is completely raw versus somebody who's been doing it for 10 years and I got to break all their bad habits, because that seems like this is what this fight took place as. Like Darrick Minner just had the instinct of, nope, I'm going to go. I felt it. I'm just going to go. And lost him the fight, man, because a million other people have tried that against Elkins and a million other people have failed. Elkins said it himself. He was like, listen, man, like there's nobody more durable in the UFC than me. I'm going to be one of the toughest dudes. And eventually in the second round, once he started doing, because it was crazy, the sprawls, man, the pace of this fight was crazy. But he was saying after, a while into the second round, I just started to feel him wilt. I broke him. And that's a dangerous thing to do. And that's one of my favorite things about fighters is when they're just able to break their opponent mentally and physically to where they just don't want to fight anymore. And you saw Minner after the TKO stoppage where he took like 40 strikes unanswered, right? So first off, Mark Smith, I love you, man. You know what I mean? Great referee, but come on, bro. 40 unanswered strikes, and he was just looking like, all right, you got to do something. And he's like, bro, there's nothing he can do. He was in a crucifix. Literally, Elkins put him in a crucifix, man. But all that aside, huge win for the damaged Darren Elkins, man. We'll talk about matchmaking in a second, but I did just want to note that Darren the Damage Elkins now has the second most victories behind Max Holloway's 17 wins in 145-pound history for the UFC. He has 15 victories in the UFC, and he has 10 fights that he has won where he has been the underdog in the UFC alone. So it's like, come on, man. Myself included, got to stop doubting Darren Elkins. But then again, who knows? The next fight could be where we go right back to where we thought. You know what I'm saying? Where we thought the trajectory of the career is going. That was an underdog victory and a performance of the night. And I forgot to mention, but Adrian Yanez, he also got a performance of the night bonus as well. Okay, co-main event because... Actually, let me take this back down. Clearly, folks, when we recorded, Maycee Barber versus Aspen Ladd was booked. It was slated. And then, a couple hours after we recorded, they noted, oh, what do you know? One day pull out, Maycee Barber got injured or whatever, had to pull out. A lot of implications there. I don't think we really need to comment on that too much, man. But that's a bad look for Maycee Barber in what was slated to be one of the biggest step-ups in competition in her career to date. So hopefully it gets rebooked, and if it doesn't, this is a terrible missed opportunity for the Fortis MMA fighter Maycee Barber. But with that being said, number 14, Kyler Phillips, a.k.a. Charles Manson, a.k.a. Baby Jesus, man. I think that it was a little too chalky on this one. I think that the man, let me set it up first. Kyler Phillips loses a majority decision victory to Raulian Paiva. Paiva, listen, we got to put respect on the man's name. I got to eat some crow. The man came to fight. Did he win the fight? I don't think so. However, did Kyler Phillips win the fight? I don't think so. I think it should have been called a draw, personally. But let's talk about it, man. I said Kyler Phillips needs to do something impressive. He needs to win in devastating fashion. He needs to finish Paiva in the first round. And I think he thought that too, man. I think he knew that this was a showcase fight. He got bumped up to the co-main event. He needed to do something crazy. And by chasing that and almost having Paiva out in the first round, he got tired. And what happens, man? Fatigue makes a coward out of all men. And that's what we saw for Kyler Phillips. Give me your take on how this fight played out, man. What surprised you in this fight, AJ?
I had it a draw as well, Derick. This was clearly a 10-8 round in the first for Phillips. And then Paiva came back. I gave him the next two. That's why it was a 10-9, 10-9, and I think it should have been a draw after that. But, man, this was a crazy fight. This was a lot of fun in the first round. And given 10 more seconds, I think Phillips had the dub. I definitely think there's a notion to call it as well a couple times in there because Paiva was feeling it. But, well, that's up for debate on that one. Definitely a very impressive first round for Phillips, and the heart on Paiva is unquestioned, man. He showed why it's important to not gas yourself out, and this was one of those fights where I said the first Yanez, the Yanez fight kind of set the tone, because a lot of these fighters, especially Phillips, they're just throwing for the fence, get tired, get put away. And I was a little, when I watched this fight live, I was a little upset. I was like, what? Like, how in the world? No way did Paiva win this fight at all. I might have even given him a second or the third round, or Phillips the second or the third round, excuse me. But then I watched it back again, and I can see where they were thinking that, but I definitely would have scored this one a tie. Paiva was hurt bad in the first round, but that spinning shit that Kyler kept throwing just gave him a chance to regain some composure. He was able to count, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a counter the spinning shit and go forward and actually do some damage or get the best of Kyler Phillips. Just had a brain fart right there, excuse me. But Paiva showed that he has real deal heart, and Phillips showed that he needs some work on the gas tank, man. Paiva has a chin on him as well, even though that's one of the worst things that we could be saying. One of the worst compliments is that he has a hell of a chin, because he got cracked a lot and he got tested. Would have definitely been happier with a draw on this one, but a win is a win for Paiva, And I had a question for you, Derick, on this one. Are you a fan of the referee giving the clock to the fighter? Because it was about 15 seconds in where it could have easily been called, and I think I don't remember if it was the no nonsense.
It was.
It was, and I don't know if he gave a little look at the clock that was right there and thought, he's got 10 seconds, he'll be all right.
So I wanted to comment on this. It's funny that you brought that up, because Dominic Cruz was mad as hell that Keith Peterson allowed Paiva to get that break. He got saved by the clock. You know what I'm saying? He's mad as hell because Keith Peterson is the same referee that pulled Dominic Cruz off when he was still scrambling, still trying to fight. So it's one thing. So you could be mad, right? But at the same time, you could say, well, maybe he learned his lessons and now he's allowing the other fighters to actually get the benefit of the doubt. It goes to show that this was well-deserved, because Paiva came and stormed back. I thought this was this was the fight of the night. You know what I mean? I was like, I put this on Instagram or something. I was like, yo, this was the fight of the night that nobody asked for, but we all deserved. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was a great contest. I will say this, man. The referee situation with Keith Peterson, it can go back and forth, because at the time I was like, dude, he's getting smashed. Like, why are you... What are we doing here? You're just going to let him just... I thought it would translate to the second round. Kyler Phillips get a stunning showcase knockout, like a spinning heel kick knockout or something crazy like that. But then we saw... Big breaths breathing out the mouth for Kyler Phillips, man. And I don't know if it was a gas tank issue as much as he really just tried to lay it all out there in the first round. It was more of a taking too much of a risk issue, not being balanced and not understanding that, like, if I don't get this done, I still got to fight for 2 more rounds, But this is also one of those situations where I wanted to ask you on this, AJ, man. Do you think that the hype got to Kyler Phillips' head? Because there was a lot of hype surrounding him. He was a huge favorite going into this one, minus 300 with the plus 230 comeback for Paiva. This was a short notice replacement. Do you think that Phillips with the green suit, you know what I mean, that mama made, and that, I'm just trying to like smash these guys so I can just keep moving forward up the rankings and whatnot, and I got this whole huge plan. Do you think that he was looking past Paiva?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so, and I think that's why he was hunting that first round KO. If he was, not hunting that, or not like thinking past Paiva, he maybe could have been able to take a little bit of breath in the middle of the first round and thought, you know what? I don't need to finish this dude right now. I'll finish him a little bit later. Let me make sure I can actually get the dub, because at the end of the day, the dub is what we want to secure, and not necessarily always the flashy striking KO knockouts. I mean, obviously it is better for the paycheck and better for the fan recognition, but the win is what everybody's always chasing, and it's that double paycheck. That's really where Phillips should have been thinking. Instead of thinking past Paiva, he should have been thinking, yeah, this is the guy that's going to stop me from eating well. I got to finish him first, so that way I can go on and buy some more green suits. Because, yeah, I definitely think he was in the matrix, like he was feeling himself. He was feeling like, oh, I'm Mr. Highlight, like Sean O'Malley, where I can just do what I want when I want and still, get the dub. But not necessarily the case when you got a dude like Paiva who's there, who's been in the grit, been dirty before, been actually able to come up from the ground up, and building. Yeah. So I definitely think it was a misstep by Kyler Phillips. He definitely should have had the victory. I also would have called it in that first for him because he was piecing up Paiva. But it just shows that, you know, anything can happen in this game, and it's absolutely insane. So
no, you're absolutely right, and I honestly think this was a lose-lose for Phillips, man, because if it did get scored a draw, you still lost stock because you drawed with Paiva, this dude who is a flyweight who's coming up, you know, if he won via decision. Well, decision against short notice replacement, right? The only path to victory for him that would boost his stock was a flashy KO, and I think that's why, you know, just chasing it a little bit too much. Now, enough about Kyler Phillips. Holly and Paiva, a win is a win is a win, just like Maycee Barber, but let's talk about the global scorecard once again. Verdict scored it 28.63 to 27.99 in favor of Kyler Phillips. Now, this is not as large as the Miranda Maverick versus Maycee Barber, but this was still pretty damn large, you know what I mean? This wasn't very, very close. So basically 0.6 of a point, Phillips was favored over Paiva, and when we talking about 10-8s, man, sometimes we got to be really careful about, oh, is this a 10-8? Should they really? That first round was a 10-8, man. He basically had him compromised. He outstruck him by like 30 strikes. You know, it was like 40-10 in the first round. But then again, Paiva picked it up over the next two and got the dub. So this was a huge win for him. This was his third win in a row and his first win at bantamweight since 2017. So it goes to show, Paiva said he's done with flyweight, and it looks like, man, he's jumping straight into the rankings. You know, he was already ranked at flyweight, so it's not like he was an unranked fighter, but he's jumping straight into the rankings at bantamweight if MMA logic makes any sense. But sometimes, man, it doesn't, and they could just put him, say, oh, no, it was a good win, but we need Kyler Phillips because of the promotion and the marketing. We need to keep him ranked. You know, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But this is two fights, AJ, two fights that the verdict scorecard the global verdict scorecard does not agree with the judges, man. So once again, it's a trend. It's a trend, man. Main event, AJ, Cory Sandhagen. Number 2, Cory Sandhagen. He loses a split decision to TJ Dillashaw, man. And I just have to make a comment off of the bat, AJ. This is the first thing that I need to say because a lot of questions were brought into place on this, which made this very difficult for a lot of people to pick who they thought was going to win, who they wanted to win, and who they thought they were going to win, because the good guy here, the hammer of justice, was Cory Sandhagen, and the snake in the grass, the CEO of EPO, you know what I mean, the former 2-time bantamweight champion, who is now looking to become a 3-time bantamweight champion and tying, I believe, Randy Couture. He would be tying Randy Couture for most times to hold a championship in UFC history. So TJ Dillashaw is really approaching Hall of Fame territory, you know, with this, even though it was a questionable win. But I got to say, man, the man was a champion for a reason. He just showed it again today. He was able to become a different fighter in every single round. His gas tank is ridiculous, and I don't know, AJ. Do we have more EPO questions? I don't know. But listen, the gas tank was ridiculous. His skill set is ridiculous. And aside from getting a pop knee in his left knee from a Cory Sandhagen leg lock, the man looked like he was basically just a cardio zombie machine, man, ready to do whatever it took to get the victory, AJ. Let me ask you this first and foremost. Do you think that TJ Dillashaw is going to get right back on track to becoming a 3-time bantamweight champion?
I don't think he did enough to get that fight personally. Okay. I definitely think he was getting pieced up. He was going for the hump win, which, you know, I'm never a big fan of. And if you think about it, he was controlling Cory Sandhagen's body up against the fence, but the damage is where it counts for me, man. The damage is what you need to get done. This, in my opinion, the first time I watched it, it was a way bigger robbery than the second time I watched it. The second time, it was a little bit, you know, I could see where they were going for, you know, I could see how TJ Dillashaw was able to weather the storm and kind of get his composure back and start fighting an actually good fight. Where I think TJ Dillashaw did best is he was listening to his coaches. They were telling him, you know, this is the garage. This is where you live. This is all that hard work we've been putting in. And the whole time TJ was talking back to his corner, you know, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just constantly doing that, constantly thinking. And I think when you're able to process information and think through a fight, you're going to be doing a lot better than the guy who's just fighting off of instincts, like we saw in the Derick Minner, where he's fighting off of instinct, just looking for a choke, because that's what instinct is telling him to do. Whereas TJ Dillashaw, was able to keep getting pieced up pretty good. And all credit to him for not getting finished, because he was eating some shots. he was actually able to eat those shots and think through like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to get it done. I'm going to keep listening to my coaches and go for it. Now, as the fight goes on, Sanhagen looked a little more defeated, in my opinion. He was looking like in training and all the times we've been together with this guy, all these shots that I've been hitting should be finishing this guy, and they're not. Whereas Dillashaw looked to draw, like I said, he looked to draw his strength from his coaches and consistently get different each round. He was able to give a different look each round and really show why he was the champ. Don't get me wrong, he is a championship level fighter, but I don't think he necessarily deserved the shot next. What do you think, Derick? Do you think he did enough to deserve the title shot after those two figure it out?
Absolutely not. And I don't. I think that he might get it due to the way the UFC works and marketing, and let's have this big pay-per-view event. I think that he might get it for that reason, but I think he needs to fight Rob Font next. Cat out the bag for matchmaking, you know what I'm saying? I think he needs to fight somebody in the top 5 again before he can go and get a championship matchup. And the reason why is because you're this former champion, right? You're supposed to be this dude, this world beater, really the best of the best. Yeah, it's been 2.5 years or whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, if Cory Sandhagen can put the performance that he did on you, how many other of these top fivers can do it as well, And I wanted to pull up some numbers really quickly because I thought that I saw a lot of swinging from TJ Dillashaw, but I saw a lot of missing too. So overall, the numbers, we have Cory Sandhagen landed 128 out of 281 significant strikes at about a 45% clip. Now, what's interesting is that TJ Dillashaw landed 110 out of 268 strikes at a 41% clip, even though it seemed to me like that wasn't quite the case. But a lot of those numbers came from the leg kicks, where TJ Dillashaw was just chopping at the legs of Cory Sandhagen. He landed 41 of 46 leg kicks on Cory Sandhagen, man. And it was really, really impressive because one thing that I thought I saw Cory Sandhagen, he was just eating leg kicks until he checked a good one. And I thought, ooh, Dillashaw's leg might be hurt. He might be in a compromised spot. Just started throwing it with the other leg like he did not care. And then went back to the first leg. And then, basically he said something that was really interesting in the post-fight presser. It's that with Cory Sandhagen, what you need to do to beat him is you need to start chopping at his legs, and then he can't do any of that crazy, finessing movement, lateral, all that stuff, because he's so concerned with the legs, he's not thinking about the head. So now he's getting punched up, pieced up. But then again, like I said, a lot of missing and a lot of big swings over for TJ Dillashaw that were either very glancing, like just kind of, hitting not at the ends of the punches, but just kind of glancing, whereas Sandhagen was snapping his head back, right? The biggest thing, AJ, does blood and cuts not count for anything, right? Because TJ Dillashaw, we saw the photo collection earlier. The man was bruised, bloodied up. He got hit with a mean flying knee, mean right hooks, all of that craziness. I don't know, man. I agree with you. I think the control was counted a little bit too much. I don't think that TJ Dillashaw technically did enough to win. I gave him the first round and the third round, but I gave 2, 4, and 5 to Sandhagen, so I had it 3-2 for Sandhagen personally. And when I looked, actually, I got a couple things, AJ. I just wanted to pull these up because I was just like taking a couple screenshots, you know what I mean, over what I was seeing. And when we look at, let's see if I got it here. Apologies. I guess I don't have it. I thought I had it. I have some comments on some other fights, but I guess not this one. A lot of people thought Cory Sandhagen won. I'm talking about, like, in terms of UFC fighters, you got like 10 plus being like, yeah, 3-2 Sandhagen, very confident. And when you see TJ win, you got the people who are big fans for TJ that are like, oh yeah, of course he won, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, it is a big win for TJ Dillashaw, AJ, man. But let's talk about verdict one more time. This was the closest verdict scorecard that we saw on this main card. It was scored 47.56 to 47.46 in favor of Cory Sandhagen. So let's be honest here, AJ. Let's take off our it shouldn't have been this way, and I don't like the way that he won. All that aside, let's just talk about it. This was a really close fight, and it is their job, it is the fighter's job to do enough to be decisive. Just what we talked about for Miranda Maverick versus Maycee Barber. So let me ask you this, definitively, on wax, robbery or really close fight?
Really close fight. Really, really close fight, and a lot closer fight than I think Sanhagen was expecting it to be. And that's why I kind of give the nod a little bit to TJ Dillashaw. Do I think he won the fight at the end of the day? No. But was it a lot closer than we expected it to be? Hell yeah. And he stayed strong. He didn't weather at all in the entire fight, even when he was getting pieced up. He might have got the humping win, but a win is a win, man. Sanhagen, to me, wasn't able to dominate enough. So that's where I can see the juxtaposition come in, because was Sanhagen able to really dominate this dude and put him away? No, not even close. He was hitting him with his best shots, and TJ Dillashaw was eating him and still walking forward. He still had the octagon control. So if you're going to count that as a favor, you know, I do agree that TJ Dillashaw did win that aspect of the fight. Now, does damage not count for anything? Because if we're counting it damage only, there's not even a close fight at that point. You know, never ever in the fight was Cory Sanhagen, you know, dangerously hurt or thinking about getting finished or anything like that. It was crazy. I like there's so many different aspects of how this fight went that if you look at one aspect only, you know, you look at ring control and body position control and all that, TJ Dillashaw won. If it was a wrestling match, he won the fight, or he won the match, excuse me. But if it was you know, just a piece of damage fight, Sanhagen won that one. So it's like, how do you want to score this one? I can totally see where the argument would come in. So that's why I think it's a close fight, not a robbery. I had definitely had it as a robbery at first, but I'm going to go back on that one. I think it's a close one. What do you think?
Well, you know what? The reason why I think Sanhagen lost, I think it comes down to one round, man. And this is the round where Cory Sanhagen decided for whatever reason to do the worst possible thing that you could do and say, oh, this dude who's trying to get my back, who's trying to wrestle me, I'm going to Granby roll and I'm going to play jiu-jitsu and I'm going to try to leg lock the man and get my face smashed in. Like, that was the thing that was really surprising, because I was like, yeah, your jiu-jitsu is good, but why would you voluntarily go to the ground on a TJ Dillashaw? And he even said it himself. He was like, I was trying too many Granby rolls and stuff in the second. I adjusted later on, but sometimes, he said it in his Instagram caption at the end, he was all like, congrats TJ, or like, nice win TJ. A couple mistakes won it for him, you know, like, and that's accountability. So I like that. At least he's not being a crybaby about it. He does think that he won the fight still, but he's not being a crybaby. He's being accountable, and I think that he still will be a future champion, man. I think that these two will probably have to see each other again in the near future. And if anything, man, you never know what can happen in the UFC, right? Someone gets hurt, injury replacement. Cory Sanhagen is right there. I don't think that he should lose a lot of stock from this, but TJ Dillashaw, man, he gets better as the rounds go on, man. That was the most impressive thing to me. Is round 4, round 5, he was there like it was round 1, you know, with the injured knee too, you know, and he said that he had like a torn meniscus in his other knee and he had a shoulder issue. So no one is ever healthy going into the fight, but it was a very impressive win. Hopefully we see, I don't know, man. Hopefully we get to see something that is like morally correct going into these next couple of matchups. Because if TJ Dillashaw gets a title shot off the bat, what are we doing? What are these rankings for? I don't know, man. But this was a de facto #1 contender fight, and TJ Dillashaw got the job done. So he goes from being non-ranked to immediately jumping up to, I'm giving him #3. I think Rob Font should go to #2. I think he rightfully deserves it, but there's no such thing as deserve in the UFC. So, folks, drop a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. If you loved the recap, drop a like if you thought that Cory Sanhagen won, and comment if you thought that TJ Dillashaw got the job done. But let's move on to some matchmaking, AJ. We can do this one pretty quickly. A lot of easy stuff tonight. So Darren Elkins, he came in at number about 28, jumped up a couple spots. I think about 26 is deserving. So, and I got a pace machine that I think would be able to. At this point, AJ, we got to kind of do the older guys versus the younger guys, right? You can't do old versus old. I'm not a big fan of the young guys versus the young guys, but I think that someone has to kill each other off. And in this one, man, I got a good one, but I want you to go first. Who do you have for Darren Elkins next?
I'm taking that exact same approach, Derick. I think the old dudes got to fight the young dudes, even though it's sad to send an old dog out to pasture. But I got a couple, and the first one I would like to see is actually Darren Elkins versus Movsar Evloev. I think that'd be a good fight. Young dude, great grappler, good striker. I think that's a hell of a fight. And I think I know the one you're going to choose, but go ahead, Derick. Go ahead. Let me know who you think.
Well, mine's easy, and he just got a win just this past event. I'm going New York native Billy Quarantillo, man. I'm going Billy. Oh, I see some surprise there. Yeah, I'm going Billy Quarantillo. And the reason why is because I think that you need to have, so Derek Minner, it was a very good contest for Darren Elkins and being a pace guy, right? But he's a pace guy for about a round or two. Billy Q is a pace run for 3 full rounds, just like Darren Elkins. So when we're talking about war of attrition, I honestly do not know who wins that fight. I know Elkins has the experience. He's won the war of attrition too many times to be an underdog in this one, but I think it would be a hell of a contest, and it would be, like I said, old versus young, man. If you're Billy Q, you don't want to go and fight those like top 15ers, top 20 guys yet. You want to build yourself up. Darren Elkins is the perfect name to do it. Who do you got next, AJ? Who's the other name that you had?
I wanted to see him versus Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell, man.
Okay.
I think that'd be a hell of a wrestling match. That would be a crazy thing to see, especially with how much grit Darren Elkins has versus how dirty of a fighter and how strong and like well-rounded Bryce Mitchell is. I think that'd be a good fight. I kind of like that Billy Q pick, though. That's a good one, man.
Yeah, it'd just be just a really, really excited washing machine style pace fight. You know what I'm saying? But that's literally the only fight that we have for featherweight. We had a lot of bantamweight matchups, so let's move on to bantamweight next. All right, man, we just talked about him, but, the CEO of EPO, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if he could lose that nickname. I think that it really does fit him more than it does fit Kamaru Usman, but TJ Dillashaw, the winner this weekend, TJ Dillashaw, he moves up to roughly around number 3 if you're in my rankings or whatever the case, man. And I already told you who I'm going with. I'll mention it again, Rob Font. I think that he's on a 4-fight win streak. TJ has to win in impressive form. You can't win these really close decisions and expect to get the title shot. We already talked about it. So I think that would be a good matchup for the wrestling. And Rob Font got some slick jiu-jitsu too. Who you got, AJ?
Yeah, I'm actually agree with you 100%. Yeah. Rob Font, I don't think TJ did enough to get the shot for the belt. And I think Rob Font has the moves to get TJ Dillashaw out, and he can crack. Yep, he got them hands. Yep. So I think that's the fight to make. We'll see if MMA math pays out, but I don't, we'll see where that goes.
Right on. And then next we got Raulian Paiva. And this, like I said, big, unexpected jump into the rankings. No one really saw it coming. Huge underdog. But I got a big name, and the reason why, AJ, is because Paiva can now kind of play this gatekeeper role. Because personally, I don't envision the man fighting in the top 5 over there challenging for a title, but I do see him being like a really strong contender, like a perennial top 20 type guy. So I like to see Paiva versus Sugar Sean O'Malley, you know what I'm saying? Get that big step in. Sugar Sean, he's trying to go slowly but surely build up himself as a prospect so he can ultimately become a contender. And he's a TKO machine, and Paiva clearly is a very, very tough guy to get out of there. So what do you think about that?
I saw that fight when I was going through, but it might have been the bias in me not want to see. I think Sugar's too much for him. Oh, yeah. But that being said, he might not be. You know what I'm saying? Like, Paiva proves he's got some heart. Who I got is another good up-and-comer, and I think this would be a hell of a fight for Paiva. But I got Timur Lukivayev, man. Yeah, a good wrestler, really good hands. I think it's a good come-up for both fighters, to be honest. I think it'd be a hell of a scrap. What do you think?
No, that's a good one. I had that one. I saw it, and I almost went there, but I personally thought Vayev, even though I'm pretty sure he's ranked lower than Sugar Sean O'Malley, or maybe not. I don't know. I thought that he was going to be too much for Paiva. I mean, look what he just did to Raoni Barcelos. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I also had Barcelos as one, but I was like, nah. And then, at the end of the day, it'll be just an interesting matchup. Someone's got to build someone up. That's the name of the promotion right here. But okay, number 35 ranked Adrian Yanez moves up to about number 28. Randy Costa was in like the 40s, so he gets a little bump up, but not too crazy. I got a couple of different ones here. Give me one that you got for Adrian Yanez.
You actually just said his name, Derick. I'm going Adrian Yanez versus Raoni Barcelos. I definitely think this needs to be a fight that needs to happen. Yanez needs to fight one of the older dudes in the division to kind of make sure that he is who we think he is, because this dude's a scrapper. Yanez can definitely get it done, and I think Raoni Barcelos is a good fight for him. I got another one, too, another old dog, but go ahead and give me one of yours, Derick.
Well, I thought that this would be a really good one, but like I mentioned earlier, I want to see Yanez fight somebody who can wrestle, somebody who can grapple. I need to see him challenge in that aspect, and for that reason, I think that he should fight the winner of number 24 ranked Jack Shore versus number 21 ranked Saeed Nurmagomedov. I think that either of those guys, both of them can strike really well. Saeed Nurmagomedov can strike way better than Jack Shore. Jack Shore is a BJJ guy, man. He's a real deal grappler. And, the Nurmagomedov legacy, what's a better name to get under your belt than one of those guys? You know what I'm saying? So for Yanez, if he really wants to prove he's the real deal against the well-rounded fighters, I think that's who he needs to go and see what's up with. But then I got another dude in number 31 ranked Davy Grant, that ever-dangerous Davy Grant, who is just a chaotic, unpredictable fighter. He could wrestle, he could strike, and I think that would be a big name for Yanez to have under his belt. Do you have anybody else, or what do you think about that?
I wanted to see Jimmy Rivera, another old dude, good wrestler, good striker. I think that's a good fight for Yanez to make, but I kind of like that Davy Grant one as well. He's a little younger for me, but, still a good matchup.
Yeah, I think Adrian Yanez, the only problem is he crippled himself in the post-fight conference where he just basically said, yeah, I want to hopefully move into the top 30, top 25. It's like, you got to call your shot, bro. You got to say, give me the top 15ers right now. But then he's kind of saying, oh, I'm really hard on myself. I need to perform better. So just let me build myself up. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. We want longevity in the sport. You don't want a quick flame. So lastly, man, women's flyweight, Maycee Barber moves from number 14 to number 13. Wow, big jump. But she called somebody out, and the person she called out responded and says, Dana White, book it. I'm game. Let's rock. You called my name. Now you're going to get it. And I was like, oh. I don't know who's going to win that matchup, but if you don't know who I'm talking about the number 8 ranked Jessica Evil Eye. She said she's ready. She's 15-10 veteran who had the experience to nullify her young opposition. But then again, I don't know, man. Eye has been on kind of a tough streak recently, man. But I got another one after this one. This was just the easy one. Who do you have on this, AJ?
Yeah, that was an easy pick for me. I definitely liked that when I was looking at the matchups. I liked that one as well. Eyes on a losing streak, so it'd be a good get back. But one I really wanted to see, and like I said before, I don't think Barber won this fight, so I do think she needs to fight down. I want to see her fight Montana De La Rosa. I think it's a good one. Both people are in it, and then just another short one. If they're going to give Barber a shot up and she doesn't fight Jessica Eye, I think KGB Lee's another well-experienced, good fighter that's going to put a hurt in on Maycee Barber if she doesn't come and show up in the first couple rounds. Who do you got?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, man. I had Montana De La Rosa as well. I thought that she's just been showing out her grappling as of late, man. Really, really good grappler. She's kind of like, proving us all wrong, keep picking against her and whatnot. She's getting the dubs. I don't know, man. The flyweight division is so shallow. It's kind of hard because I was thinking all the same names you said. I was already looking through those, and I was like, oh, those would be good. But it's just so shallow. I don't know if Maycee Barber is truly ready to be on that trajectory that we thought that she was going to go on to, man, just because of the inconsistency in her performances. It's not even like consistently bad. It's like inconsistently kind of poor in different ways, but also good in different ways. I just like to see a little more consistency from her, and I think we will see that. She talked about she signed a 12-month lease for Team Alpha Male over there in Sacramento. So, hopefully if she gets a few more fights at Team Alpha Male, we could at least start building on the progress that she's made. But that's the matchmaking, folks. That is the matchmaking. And listen, hopefully we'll see some of these things come to fruition. But yeah, drop a like if you like the picks that we got going on right there. And, all that good stuff. Bloodywater.com. Or bloodywaterpodcast.com. Apologies, butchered my own stuff right there. But listen, man, Newswire, AJ, I got very little this week for the Newswire. We already talked about it a little bit, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more. I wanted to talk about how Rachael Ostovich got the big win over Paige VanZant, and we can just briefly go over this and we can call it a day. Paige VanZant walks out of the ring after hearing the decision announced, man. I just want to know, to you, and personally, just your own personal opinion, imagine you were in the big show and you were fighting at the highest of levels. You hear a decision that you don't agree with. Do you just walk out? Do you just say, fuck this, I'm out? You know what I mean? Not shake anybody's hand, not acknowledge anybody, and just be a poor sport like that? Or do you think, and this is obviously thought experiment, you know what I mean? Do you think you would have the chops enough to say, all right, respect to my opponent, respect to my opponent's, corner or whatever? How would you do it?
I mean, it's hard to say you would have the respect and the thought process of being able to control yourself enough to be like, yo, yeah, this person won. It is what it is. You did really good. And I think it's a little easier to do that when you actually got pieced up. Cause when you're losing a fight, you know what I'm saying? For a fact when you're getting pieced up and you're losing that fight. But at the same time, the competitor in me thinks fuck that, I won, this is bullshit. So I can see where you would walk out of the cage a little upset, especially with a close fight. But when you're getting pieced up like that, I think it's important to know. And with obviously, my background in karate and that stuff, it's more of a respect sport. So you always gotta respect the guy you're fighting, even though you never take your eyes off your opponent. But at the same time, I think it's about life, and it's about taking responsibility of your actions. And at the end of the day, if you didn't do enough to win the fight, you got to respect the decision that was given because you didn't do enough to actually solidify a victory. So I would like to think that I'd have the good graces in the mind to be able to thank my opponent, congratulate them, but I can see where you wouldn't. What do you think, Derick? Would you?
I'm really big on respect, man. I think that at the end of the day, it is what it is, man. Just like quoting the great Max Holloway, it just is what it is, and you got to deal with what the announcement was, what the ruling was. You should have did more. You should have did more. And even if it's a straight robbery, like Roy Jones Jr. back in the day when he got robbed at the Olympics or whatever, and no one agreed with the decision. And even the dude who won was like, "Yo, what the hell? I won!" Even then, you still got to be like, "All right, man, you got the job done. Deep down in your heart, you're a fucking loser." You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, come on. But no, just joking, man. I think that, I loved it. Even when we saw TJ Dillashaw enter the cage this weekend against Cory Sandhagen, he did something that I was like, oh, this old school, man. This dude's really coming. Where he did the bow and the bushido, the old school, martial arts. I was like, oh, I love it, man. I love it. Because you got to take it seriously. You enter that octagon, that's your dojo, that stuff like that. But the last piece of news, AJ, is you familiar with the rapper Blueface, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So, this dude, with Blueface, baby, all that, right? So he fought in bare knuckle fighting championships as well on that Paige VanZant card. And he fought another dude who I don't even know who this guy is, but Kane Trujillo is his name. And all I wanted to point out is that Blueface, he got the unanimous decision victory. I did not watch the fight, so I didn't entertain myself with that nonsense. But I just want to talk about what happened after. There's an individual. His name is Jonathan Parra, and he was arrested after because he attacked Blueface. He jumped into the ring after Blueface got the job done. But what was the most hilarious to me is that this dude jumps in and Blueface immediately like, what's up? And throws a big right hand into him and then comes up with another overhand. And I was just like, you're going to fight a dude who's already warmed up, who just got done with the fight. This dude's ready to scrap. And you're going to go in bare knuckle and just get pieced up by him like that and then get arrested and look stupid, I just want to ask you about this, AJ. Bare knuckle fighting championship is clearly a spectacle to see. We're tuning in because it's just a crazy, crazy scene. But do you think it sets the promotion and the organization and even the sport in and of itself backwards when you got people? This is not the first time that people have jumped into the ring. Where's your security at? How do you not control this situation? I don't understand. Do you think it's a bad look? The same way that when Khabib jumped out of the cage after defeating Conor McGregor, Dana White was kind of saying you're setting us back as a sport. People are going to think we're just goons and thugs. When Conor threw the dolly at the bus, they think we're just criminals and things like that. Just give me your take on that before we get out of here.
Yeah, it has to set the sport back because this is a sport, not a war, even though as much as it is a war inside that cage, it's inside that cage is the word that matters. If we're just out here being thugs and criminals and just jumping in and just, literally jumping people when they're not expecting it. Yeah, that's not a good look. It's not a good look. It sets us back. And I know back in the day, 1993, when this was all getting, put together, they were saying it's human cockfighting and all that stuff. And that's what we need to avoid. We need to show that this is an actual sport with actual thing, because a lot of the clients I train, man, they hear that I like MMA and they're like, what? You like watching people get punched in the face? You like doing that? That's savagery. But no, it's not. It's an actual, art form that needs to be respected. And the more we do stuff like this, the less it is an art form and the less respect we actually get. So.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely with you. And that's kind of like our job here. What we do here is we sit here and we talk about the fights and we go to show that it's an art form. It's beautiful to watch. This is like poetry in motion as opposed to good old Joe Biden saying, yeah, man, human cockfighting. Look at what they're doing over there. Yeah, come on, man. So, yeah, we need to erase the stigma. And the only way we could do that is by acting like consummate professionals when we're in there. Even though, listen, man, you just got done getting punched in the face, punching somebody else in the face. Tensions are high. Emotions are high. But listen, act accordingly and act like you've been here before, even though neither of them had been there before. But still, act like you've been here before. At the end of the day, folks, that's the news wire. That is all we have for this week's episode. AJ, we got a good one on our hands next week. Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland at UFC Fight Night 194. And before we get out of here, I just wanted to highlight, just like last week, a couple of really big matchups that you need to stay tuned in for, which is why you need to tune in again when we drop our next preview show this Friday, folks. We got Shamil Abdurakhimov facing off against Chris Daukaus, which was a fight we were supposed to see this week, got pushed over to next week. It is what it is. But we got another really good one. We got the I'll Follow You Home bitch in Cheyenne Bays facing off against Gloria DePaula, man. It's going to be a really, really good matchup over there in the women's strawweight division. Nicholas Stoltze is fighting against Munir Lazez, man. And if you don't know, so this, folks, this is going to be a card for the hardcores, man. There's not a lot of popular names on here, but that is a great matchup to watch for as well. AJ, I know you're going to like this one. We got Chris Grutzmacher facing off against Rafa Garcia. And I know Rafa Garcia was one of your sleepers not too long ago, man. So that's going to be a really, really good one. Lastly, AJ, Tell me what you think about these three in succession, right? We're going to have Ronnie Lawrence facing off against Guam's Trevin Jones, man. That's a striking contest. That's a banger alert. Jin Yu Frey versus the Spider Monkey Ashley Yoder. Banger alert right there. Come on. And then lastly, Danny Chavez versus Kai Kamaka. Come on, bro. And those are all on the prelims, man. We'll see how the bout order shakes up. But how excited, just off the top, just for a couple of those matchups that I named, how excited are you for those?
Ooh, you got Trevin Jones, you got Ashley Yoder, you got Chris Dawkins. Oh, this is going to be a banger of a fight card, man. And not to mention, Uriah Hall, we get to see in some serious action versus the gangster Sean Strickland, man. I'm very excited. I'd say out of 10, I'm at about an 8 or 9. Man, this is going to be a lot of fun going forward, brother. How excited are you?
I'm right there, up there with you. But like I said, this is one of those for it fulfills my hardcore-ness, you know what I mean? Because I know all of these are a lot of prospect fighters. These are not big names over here, you know, this ain't big pay-per-view names. But the last matchup that I will name, because I'm really excited to see her fight, she hasn't fought in so long. She is a former, I believe, a strawweight champion, like the first strawweight champion or something of that nature, maybe flyweight, something like that. She's a woman fighter. Her name is Nico Montano. And she is fighting against Wu Yanan, and that is going to be a great contest, but it's going to be her first fight in action in quite some time, man. So enough of that stuff. Obviously, we'll talk about it on Friday, but that's why you need to tune back in, folks. Subscribe, drop a like, all that good stuff, man. We appreciate all the support. We appreciate all the love. And yeah, right there, somewhere over here, subscribe right down there, folks. Holla at us. Until next time, that's it, folks. Peace.